Have you heard of MTHFR methylation and are wondering if your symptoms are being caused by it? Well, in this video, I simply summarize what MTHFR is, the conditions that it causes, and my top lifestyle hacks that helped me recover for good. Hi, I'm David, and I help people reclaim their lives from brain fog, chronic fatigue, and low self-esteem. So today's video is going to be an excellent starting point for those of you that want to get an understanding of what MTHFR is and what meaningful action you can take to reclaim your health without getting bogged down into all the details. So MTHFR is actually affecting 2/3 of the population, and most people have no idea about it. Doctors aren't really testing for it, and it's been implicated in dozens of conditions. And so how is it that doctors are not even testing for this? And even if it comes up on labs, they're not really helping people mitigate the effects of compromised methylation. Okay, so per the title of the video, what is MTHFR? So MTHFR is a gene that is critical to the function of methylation. And you could think of methylation as a biological switchboard that governs all sorts of processes in the body. Some of the most important ones include gene expression, so whether your genetic predispositions are turned on or off, as well as intracellular detoxification, so your ability to detox things like heavy metals, environmental toxins, and other things that don't belong in your body. And probably the most important function of the MTHFR gene is to fuel methylation through the conversion of folic acid, or the inactive form of folate, into methylfolate, or the form that your body can use. And when you have an MTHFR gene mutation, this conversion process from the inactive folic acid into the active methylfolate is going to be compromised anywhere from 30 to 70%. So your cells aren't really going to have the fuel that they need in order to methylate properly. And that's going to cause a host of issues down the road. And one of the biggest disruptions in the methylation cycle that comes as a result of not having enough of this methylfolate is going to be the buildup of something called homocysteine. And homocysteine is a toxic amino acid. And so what happens here is that homocysteine is supposed to be converted into methionine, but because you don't have that fuel of methylfolate, it actually just remains as homocysteine, which then becomes a really big problem, specifically for your cardiovascular health. Okay, we're about halfway through this video. Just wanted to check in and see if you're getting value, and if so, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. All right, back to the episode. So the first effect is that your genetic predispositions are more likely to turn on as a result of compromised methylation. Like I mentioned earlier, methylation is heavily involved in genetic expression. So when it's not working well, a lot of those illnesses or conditions that we're predisposed to having are more likely to happen. A higher likelihood of heart disease, elevated blood pressure, and other cardiovascular issues. This is most often going to be related to that elevated homocysteine that I mentioned earlier. So next one is compromised detoxification. I've talked about this a lot on my channel because the way that I discovered I had MTHFR is through discovering I had elevated cadmium and mercury. So when you have MTHFR, specifically the homozygous variant, check out my video on the different variants of MTHFR, you are more likely to have elevated heavy metals. So the next implication is an inability to produce adequate neurotransmitters. So you're much more prone to depression, anxiety, and addictions. Specifically, you're more likely to have low dopamine. And when you suffer from low dopamine or you're unable to produce dopamine, a lot of times this results in filling that gap with things like, alcohol, smoking, drugs, pornography, or anything else that is going to really give you a strong hit of dopamine. When your methylation is compromised, you're more likely to suffer from low dopamine. And a lot of times when you have chronically low dopamine, you're going to try and compensate for that through alcohol, cigarettes, stimulant drugs, ADD medication, pornography, or anything else that is going to give you a big hit of dopamine. So the interesting thing about this is that a lot of people might think that this is an intrinsic part of them, that they have low energy, that they're kind of a little bit depressed, don't have a lot of enthusiasm. And so they'll try all these interventions such as, nootropics, or they might take ADD medication, stimulants, energy drinks, all sorts of diets. But at the root of it all was actually compromised methylation and an untreated MTHFR mutation. This is exactly what happened to me. I actually did try ADD medication. I used to drink energy drinks all the time. I used to find that I didn't have much energy and I had chronic fatigue. But actually what was happening is that I wasn't methylating properly, and this was having a cascade effect on my system in a multitude of ways. Okay, so we covered like what MTHFR is, what are the health implications of it, so what do you do about it? And so this could be a long video, something I dive much deeper into in the future, but what are some quick tips that you could do? All right, so the first one is going to be to consume more dark leafy greens. And the reason for that is because it's going to have a really high dose of methylfolate, or the active folate. The second one is going to be to avoid folic acid. So just avoid folic acid at all costs. You can check out my video on how much folic acid or folate should you be taking. Definitely check that out. And instead of folic acid, so definitely look at your multivitamin to make sure there isn't folic acid, and instead take methylfolate. So that's L5-MTHF. You can check out in the description below my recommended methylated B vitamins with the folate that's in there as well. The next one is going to be to take methyl B12. In general, I recommend just taking some sort of methylation support that has the active forms of B12, B6, and folate. You could also take it individually if you're trying to optimize your dose. That's certainly, a topic for another video and something you can play around with. But the easiest way to start is to use a functional medicine multivitamin as well as something like MethylGuard. Next one is going to be to consume organic or grass-fed animal products. If you do not consume animal products, no big deal. But if you do, just make sure that they're grass-fed, pasture-fed, or organic. And the reason for that is that you have a tendency to build up toxins in the body, so it's better just to not introduce more toxins, more pesticides and hormones through grain-fed or industrial meats. And then the last one is going to be to support your detoxification pathways through taking something like glutathione, which is your body's master antioxidant, which I mentioned earlier, as well as NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. All right, well, that's it for today's video on what the fuck is MTHFR and what can I do about it. I know that this can be really perplexing and difficult to navigate, especially if you just found out you have MTHFR, or you're just wondering if this is at the root cause of your symptoms. If you have any questions, comments, anything I wasn't able to cover, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I really want to understand what questions you have about this topic so I can really expand upon this series of MTHFR FAQ. If you got value from this video and would like more videos like this, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on how to optimize your mind, body, and emotions so you can live out a life of purpose. And once again, it's truly a pleasure to share this information with you, and I wish you health, happiness, and ease as you move through this life. I'll see you in the next episode.